The US has imposed sanctions on 25 China based firms and individuals allegedly involved in producing chemicals used to make fentanyl, a potent opioid contributing to the US drug crisis. Fentanyl is a major player in the opioid epidemic, and the US claims its supply chain often starts with chemical companies in China. China criticized the sanctions, attributing the fentanyl crisis to the issues within the United States itself. The Chinese Foreign Ministry expressed opposition to the sanctions, stating they infringe on the lawful rights of Chinese entities and individuals. China highlighted its strict crackdown on drug crimes and claimed that imposing pressure and sanctions won't solve US problems but hinder cooperation on drug control. Mexican president previously urged China to help halt the alleged flow of fentanyl into the Mexico, blaming Mexican drug gangs for supplying fentanyl to the US. The US Treasury Department imposed sanctions on a China based network responsible for the manufacturing and distribution of fentanyl precursors and other illegal drugs. The sanctions target entities and individuals in China and Canada, freezing their US assets and prohibiting dealings with Americans. Fentanyl, a low cost and high potent synthetic drug, is produced in China and illegally brought to the US, contributing to the opioid crisis. The US Drug Enforcement Administration identifies China as the primary source of fentanyl in the US, with shipments often going through Mexico and to a lesser extent Canada. China's weakly regulated and poorly monitored chemical and pharmaceutical industries contributed to the global supply of fentanyl and other illicit substances. Chinese exporters employ various methods to covertly ship drugs to the Western Hemisphere, including mislabeling and modifying chemicals. The US Justice Department has unsealed indictments against 8 Chinese companies and 12 employees related to fentanyl and methamphetamine production. The Biden Xi Jinping agreement aims to crack down on Chinese companies producing fentanyl precursors in exchange for lifting sanctions on certain Chinese entities. Fentanyl, 50 times more potent than heroin, has led to a surge in opioid overdoses and death in the US, reaching a record 1,09,680 deaths in 2022. The drug's affordability and potency make it attractive, contributing to its increasing prevalence and mixing with other substances. While efforts to curb fentanyl supply have been made, challenges persist due to the diffuse nature of distribution and sophisticated production methods by drug exporters. Fentanyl related issues included overdoses and trafficking are on the rise in Mexico, prompting concerns and discussions between US and Mexican officials. Seizures at the US Mexico border indicate a substantial increase in intercepted fentanyl shipments. China's cooperation in controlling the fentanyl supply has been a point of contention, with accusation of lax regulation and insufficient efforts to curb illicit chemical exports. The recent agreement between Presidents Biden and Xi involves China cracking down on fentanyl precursor production in exchange for the US lifting sanctions on certain Chinese entities. Tension between China and the US had led to the suspension of anti drug cooperation in 2022. Fentanyl, a prescription drug for severe pain, has become a leading cause of death among Americans aged 18 to 49. China was the primary source of illicit fentanyl to the US before regulations were imposed in 2019, leading to a significant decrease in direct shipments. The fentanyl crisis is deeply intertwined with the broader US opioid epidemic, with widespread overdoses and deaths, sparking legal actions against pharmaceutical companies involved in irresponsible practices. Thank you.